One. Welcome back to the Hit the Turnbuckle podcast. Oh, a top 10 episode, the start of a few we've got during WrestleMania season. Now, as you all know, when we have new co-hosts on the show, part of their, integration, I think that's the word, or part of their probation period is to cover a top 10 show. Now, David failed miserably on his top 10s, but he's still a part of us, but that's due to a bung that he sent me and Andy at the time of money. But of course, now some of you that will know, the one that recently saw an interview what we done with Andrew Rose from Australia, will know that we've got a new co-host on the channel, and it's fitting that it's time to bring him on to give us his top 10. I'll tell you what the top 10 is going to be in a minute, but first let's welcome him back, Michael Johnny. Welcome back, Michael.
Thank you very much. How are you
It,
doing?
and not too bad, not too bad. I always love these top 10s because they're so different. They're so like, it's a personal opinion, right? It's one of those it's one of those things, it's an interesting list that we do get. Now, what list are we doing? Well, now this is going to be an interesting list because the championship that we're doing a top 10 list on spans different promotions, and it's the US Championship. And Michael, you've got some information regarding the US Championship.
Yes, so obviously um, it is currently held by Carmelo Hayes in the WWE.
Mhm.
As of right now, 108 wrestlers have held the title since its inception back in 1975. For 15 years, the Mid Atlantic legends of NWA, such as Ric Flair and Grey Valentine, battled over the belt. It would then go on to be part of WCW's um, history. Um, for the next 11 years, it was recognized as the second most important belt in WWE. Sorry, in WCW. My apologies. That was until WWE acquired WCW back in 2001, where it got joined when it got put together when Test and Edge faced each other in Invasion. And we lost that belt for a number of years, and then Stephanie McMahon brought it back on an episode of SmackDown back in 2003. And as I said, it's been a staple of WWE's programming and their title heritage ever since.
Yeah, it does. And when you look at it, like, the US Championship for me, it was massive in WWE, as you reckon. It was recognized as this, it was their IC championship.
Yeah.
What the Intercontinental Championship was to the WWE, the US Championship was to, the NWA and the WCW. And it's held some big names have held it, which we'll probably get into because they're probably going to be on our lists. Now, lists being the appropriate word. Now, Michael, as well, you may not know, and people have watched the top 10 will know, we always do the top 10 back to front. He started at number 10 and it finishes at your number one, who you think is the most prestigious holder of the United States Championship. So let's not waste any more time. Who is your number 10 and why?
Right. So this list is going to be complete, as you said, is going to be completely different to others.
Mhm.
It is my personal favorite.
Yep.
Favorites. That's it. Doesn't matter. It's how they carried the belts. It's how they were shown on TV. It's a mixture of everything. It's not just title lineage.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
my number 10 is actually Lance Storm.
Oh, wow.
So in his time, he has actually won the belt three times,
Mm.
totaling around about 118 days. Storm was the first WCW competitor to be recognized as a triple champion. He held the cruiserweight, US title, and hardcore titles all at the same time. And at one point, he actually renamed the US title the Canadian heavyweight title. The reason why he's in my top 10 is because he was so good getting heat.
Mm.
And I know he was quite very heavily buried when he came to WWE by with that segment with Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Yeah.
where Stone Cold went to sleep on the ramp.
Yeah.
But me personally, I thought his reign as a US champion was just incredible. He was a workhorse. He uh, he was just he was able to just encapsulate everyone's hatred of him because of how he could be such a heel. And so yeah, that's basically why I love him. I love heels. I don't. It doesn't matter if they are on other ones on my list. It doesn't matter whether they are good or bad at wrestling. It's just how they encapsulate the crowd, how they are shown on TV. But he, pardon the pun, was a total package in regards being that type of wrestler. And I grew up. I was born in the 80s. I was lucky enough to get Sky Sports very early on in the 90s. So I was able to see quite a lot of Monday Nitro when it kicked in. When WWE Raw was on Friday nights at 9-10 o'clock for an hour. And this was my first time seeing Lance Storm in the early 90s. And I absolutely loved him. I've gone back over the time, over his career. And yeah, I just think he was just an incredible champion. And for someone that at that time WCW was pushing, he's, as I said, he's one of the reasons why I love him and he's on my top 10.
He's a great wrestler. I used to love Lance Storm. I was brilliant every time I saw him. Anyway, big in ECW as
Yes.
well. And probably if we get to, we may obviously get around to watching some of the ECWs in one of our new series, which I'll talk to everyone about at the end. So we'll wait and see. My number 10 is kind of in the same mold that he held the championship together with another championship. However, I'm going to use a WWE wrestler as my first number 10. Now, this was Seth Rollins. Seth held the WWE Championship and the United States Heavyweight Championship at the same time during one of his runs as US champion. And Seth, for me, encapsulated the word that you use very well, which is workhorse. Seth has always been the WWE's kind of like the go-to guy. He's kind of like a Dolph Ziggler, who's not on my list for US champions. But if you look at somebody that he can elevate talent, elevate himself, and he done that with the championship, having it together at the same time for his reign now. I think it may have one of those reigns may have ended due to injury, I think, at that point. But Seth has always been one of my, whether he's a heel or a face, he's always been one of my go-to matches. Every time he has a match, I'm watching it. And I think as a champion, you need to be able to want to watch those championship matches. And if the guy can't get it done in the ring, you're not really going to enjoy the title match as much as you should do, in my opinion. So Seth encapsulates everything that a champion should be. And he's on number 10 on my list. There's going to be a controversial one coming up on my list that people are probably going to go, what the hell are you putting him on there for? But we'll get to him in a minute. But Seth is my number 10 on my list.
I was going to say at the end, I've got some honourable mentions, but we'll go through that later.
We will.
My number 9 is Rusev.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So in this time of holding the belt, he won it 3 times for around about 312 days.
Mm-hmm.
Was over as hell.
Yeah.
Obviously, we saw Rusev Day during different times.
Yeah.
The infamous tank entrance at WrestleMania, where he faced John Cena and unfortunately lost. A lot of people, including me, think he should have gone over.
Yeah.
Because he was the biggest thing in WWE at that time.
Yeah.
And they were pushing him to a point where unfortunately, he was the Zack Ryder. He was getting himself over. Yeah. And clearly, a lot of some people backstage didn't like that. They wanted to be pardon the expression, the architect of being able to put people over and make people. And clearly, at that point, during his reign and during his period of time before he left for AEW, it clearly rubbed up a couple of people the wrong way. And unfortunately, since he's been back, I'm really sorry, but everyone said he needed to go back to WWE, and I think WWE are actually treating him worse than he was in the AEW. So, and it's a shame because he's a fantastic wrestler, and he's as I said, he's over as hell. So yeah, hopefully something goes better for him in the future. But yeah, that's my number 9. What about you?
That's a good one. I mean, just going to touch on that because we had Matt Raywold on the show who used to play. What was his name in the WWE? Jesus.
Yes, TNA. Oh, you've got me now. He was. It's
His
it's going to
partner was
stick me now.
Simon Gotch. He was
Yeah,
partnered
so
with Simon Gotch.
people in the comments will kill us for this. Yes.
Yeah, we're sitting here
Um,
doing lists we don't even know what we're talking about. I tell you what, I'm going to have to use what's called the world of Wikipedia because it's going to
oh,
annoy
we
me
are bad.
now because I need to
Especially
know
throw me
who.
off.
I know it's totally killed me. Hang on, aided English. Thank you,
Ed in English, that's it.
thank you, Wikipedia. We had him on, and he was saying how they put Rusev Day together just because yeah, pretty much because they didn't think it was going to get over. They didn't really they didn't really have any plans for them, and it got over, and they hated the fact that the crowd were chanting Rusev Day. But hey ho, there you go. Sometimes you say the Zack Ryders of this world gets himself over, maybe sometimes to their detriment in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, with talent. But you mentioned my number nine. Now here's where it gets interesting because wait until I give you my number eight and people's heads are gonna explode. Now my number nine is the epitome of NWA, was the epitome of WCW. He was a son of a plumber. For those of you that will know, Dusty Rhodes. He was the guy that really elevated the United States Championship in the NWA and of course into WCW. Everyone will now know his one of his sons as Cody. And WWE. I think Cody's had the United States Championship as well. But Dusty, for me, I mean, he was everything, right? He was what you class as an 80s, 90s wrestler. He was a character. When characters, he could cut a promo, yeah, he could get it done in the ring. He was 360 pounds, but he still moved like a cruiserweight in a lot of ways. Dusty, for me, was one of the guys who should have been maybe even the WWE World Champion, never was. He was just brilliant at what he done. And I know people are going to kill me at the end when they see my next pick when I say his name, and it's not Joe Hendry, because I know people are going to say, well, he's not a United States champion yet. But Dusty for me was a fantastic champion. He elevated himself. He elevated the championship at the same time in NWA or Jim Crockett Promotions, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it at the time. For me, Dusty is my number nine on my list.
So I'm going to be very bad now. He didn't even crack my top 10.
There you go, everybody.
But
Fire him on
again,
the spot, you say.
but as you said, he's my honourable mention.
Yes.
You're exactly correct. You look at him, he isn't a champion. He shouldn't
Mhm.
be in this business, but he's so charismatic.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was able to put over himself in a leotard with with yellow spots on when Vince brought him over and he made it work, just threw everything in their face just to say, you can't put me down.
Yeah.
And I mean, as I said, he's an incredible wrestler. I can't knock him for any of that. But again, it's not for me. It's not a popularity contest. It's just the everything,
Yeah.
especially for when I was enjoying wrestling.
Yeah.
So my next one
Hmm.
is Cesaro.
Oh, he's great. He's not on my list, but he's a great wrestler.
So he won it once, and he had held it for 239 days.
Hmm.
He had some incredible matches on WWE. He then moved down to NXT. Well, I say moved
Yeah.
down. At that point, moved across to NXT, where he
Yeah.
had three incredible matches with Tyson Kidd. With Tyson Kidd and Pac.
Yes.
But again, he's still working the way that he was then now,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the reasons why he's on my list. Just because, as I said, again going back to what I was saying about last Landstorm, the package is just consistent. He works. He's utter butt off, even if he doesn't get the credit, as you were saying before, with Rhodes not being a heavyweight champion. Cesaro, exactly, or Claudio Castagnoli, as he is known now, should have been one as well. But I absolutely loved him doing his run as the US champion. Yeah,
Definitely one that WWE, I think, dropped the ball with. Claudio Castagnoli, Cesaro, as we know. Great team with Sheamus. One of those rare times they put a team together and it works.
do you know what though? I loved it. I loved him when he was teaming with Tyson Kidd.
Oh yeah, that was another great one. Yeah, Tyson Kidd's a fantastic guy. I know TJ quite well outside of the WWE, and
All
yeah,
right.
yes. I spent WrestleMania 26 many hours with him in Arizona with Tyson Kidd, Diana Smith, Georgia Smith, like the Hart Smith family,
Yeah.
Harry Smith as well. I spent we went out to lunch together. We spent a lot of time together. It was really nice, and it was one of those times where I felt important because when we were walking down the street in Arizona, some guy come up and said, "Oh, hey, can I have autograph?" And Harry said, "Oh, sorry, I'm with my family." And I was just like, "I'm not even your family, but I'll take it." Yeah, it was amazing. It was just a nice feeling. But yeah, great people. And Tyson Kidd, incredible athlete, and doing great stuff at the dungeon as well, we
Yeah.
must say.
So what about you then? What's yours? What's your
Wow,
next one?
here we go. Here's where I hit the word controversial because I've said Dusty Rhodes and I've said Seth Rollins, and people are going to say, "Well, how is this man higher up your list than those two?" Um, The Miz is my number 8,
Okay.
right? Because, and you're talking about someone that never gets the credit that he deserves, right? That guy come into WWE, was hated, was kicked out locker rooms. They wanted him fired. This guy come in from reality TV. Not many people forget he was on the reality TV before he come to
The
WWE.
real world?
The real
Yes.
world. Yeah, you got it.
Yes.
It's right. So everybody hated him. And like he has come in, you're talking about someone that's worked his butt off. He has literally done everything the company wants him to do. And he is Grand Slam champion in the WWE, I believe, for a reason,
Yes.
right? Because he does it. He's won every championship. Doesn't get the credit that he deserves for it. He was one of those ones that also was a bit like Dusty elevated the championship at the time because a lot of people weren't really looking at United States champion as a credible championship. But sometimes it takes a reign or sometimes it takes a competitor to really bring it up. And the Miz done that for me when he was US champion. And sometimes it's his promo skills that do it. Sometimes they put him in the right feud with the right person and it works. But he's one I think gets overlooked so many times in top 10 lists that I had to put him on here and I had to put him higher than Dusty, which I know people will probably hate, but I just think the impact that that guy had as a United States champion, I don't think people talk about it enough for me.
I completely agree with you. Unfortunately, he's not on mine,
Yeah,
but he
exactly.
would.
Yeah.
He is an honourable mention. I mean, look at what he's doing with Danhausen and Kit Wilson now.
Yeah.
He's yes, he may not be main eventing, he may not be winning championships, but he's like you said with Seth Rollins. He's one of these people that they are. They know that he's capable of putting people over and especially from what you said, from how he started
Yeah.
to where he is now, where he has been someone that they trust to put people over and do programs with the whole thing with Carmelo Hayes that he did. It's just you know what it's he's somebody that he will be if he's going to be a lifer at WWE, whether that be moving on to backstage or whether he be an ambassador. But yeah, I completely agree with everything you said there. Miz is an incredible wrestler who has put up with a lot and not let and basically use that to drive him on to show the critics that they are wrong.
Indeed. And he makes chicken salad out of chicken shit, I think is what I would
Yes.
say with this. Right. That's my opinion. But number 7, Michael, go, please.
Right, so this was during the period of time where I was properly into wrestling. So this,
Mhm.
so as I said, I used to never realised it was on before. I used to watch Cartoon Network and then it switch
Yeah.
over onto Monday
Johnny
Night.
Bravo used to finish.
Yes,
Nitro,
yes,
come on.
yeah. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is amazing. You know, because originally we'd only be allowed to watch 1 hour on Sky Sports
Yeah.
over here in the UK
Yeah.
to watch Raw, which was taped. And I was just like, Jesus, what's this? And then I'm watching, it's like, this is blowing my mind. And yes, he's controversial, depending on how you look at him, but he was somebody that helped elevate WCW, especially during the Monday Night Wars, and that is Bill Goldberg.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So Bill Goldberg won the belt twice
He did.
for 78 days. He beat Raven during his. So Raven had won the belt the night before on pay per view, and then he lost it to Goldberg on the Monday night
Nitro. Yeah.
Nitro. It was during his winning streak of winning 19 matches each week, even though obviously it was the whole thing before people really
Yeah,
hooked onto the internet side. It's the whole thing of people putting eyes on the product, which I
yeah,
think is a fantastic marketing gimmick. Um, he um, would unfortunately lose it at the end of the year to Scott Hall,
yeah.
who unfortunately is not on my top 10, but is an
No.
honourable mention too. I just think while he had that belt, obviously, um, while he had that belt, it was just helping, again, like with the Lance Storm um, thing, it was just elevating that belt to be a main contender, a bit like how the Intercontinental Championship was for the
Yeah,
WWF at the time. It was a workhorse belt. You very rarely saw the heavyweight championship defended. And if it was once every blue moon, whereas the US title was defended pretty much every week, if not twice a week. And I just thought during that little period of time, Goldberg helped put eyes on the product and elevate the belt. Yes, it wasn't the right way. I think he should have lost the belt, the infamous taser
yeah.
issue. But for that little pocket of time, he did what he needed to do to put eyes on WCW, and that's why I think he's my number 7. So
No, it's very, very good. This is going to be funny because my number 7 has held the United States Championship in both WWE and WCW. And funny enough, more than anything else, absolutely despises Bill Goldberg. Uh, and that man is Bret the Hitman Hart, which, look, obviously when he won it in the WWE, his career was far past him. But he did win it once in the WWE. When he
from the
comes to
Miz,
probably,
was it?
yeah, I think he
Yeah,
beat
from the
the
Miz.
Miz. Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go, the one below. I mean, look, we don't need to talk about how great Bret was as a wrestler. There's no doubt about it. Like I said, his WWE United States run was probably far too late in his career for it to really matter, but he won it nevertheless. In WCW, we all know that he kind of didn't have what the run that he wanted, or maybe some of this was a bit from a bitter point of view because of everything that had happened over in the WWEF at the
yeah.
time. Obviously, the Owen stuff as well happened during his time in WCW, and the stuff with Bill Goldberg obviously ended his career. And but I don't think you can't have a top 10 list of champions and not have. Well, maybe you haven't, but not have Bret
Clearly, I
Hart.
haven't. No,
No, there you go. But there you go. I can't believe one of us doesn't can't have a top 10 without having Bret Hart as a part of it. So I've put him there on my list so yeah,
I
at that
mean,
position.
yes, he was a very, very good champion. His reign, for me, his reigns as US champion
Yeah,
weren't as captivating, as good as others.
yeah,
Um, but you are correct. I think, um, obviously, sour taste in his mouth when he left WWE, or
yeah,
at that time WWF, with the whole 20-year contract thing, whatever it
yeah.
was. And then Vince saying no, and that put a bit of taste in his mouth. Not being there for when Owen passed really, really
Mm.
didn't settle with him, and he was clearly not happy with that. And he just, to be honest, I think during that period of time, what he was promised in WCW um, wasn't what he got, and unfortunately, that's from certain other wrestlers that were pulling the strings at the time. Um, but he is for me, he's a very, very good, credible champion. I just don't think for me, he's as good as a US champion. As you said, the WCW run wasn't the best for him. So,
No,
yeah,
exactly that, and I think that may be the reason why, in my opinion, perhaps people don't think because I don't even think he was really in it at that point,
no.
to be honest. But I can't have a list without Brett as a champion, so I have to put him in there. What about
Fair enough.
your next one?
Diamond Dallas Page is my number
Oh,
6.
yeah, 6.
So, in his time, he'd won the belt twice
Mhm.
for 147 days, which at this point is quite a good reign. This was during the WCW period of,
Yeah,
WCW period of time. Um, most unforgettable matches in WCW history was at Uncensored 97, where he retained the title in the three-way Falls Count Anywhere match against Raven and Chris Benoit. If you've never seen that match, go find it. It is a brutal match. Again, during that period of time, I was moving over towards loving WCW, the product, the way that it looked. It wasn't the fact that 60,000 people are watching it in an arena. I just loved the way that the presentation was at the time. Obviously, WWE at the time was very much dark, dingy. It was the Warzone era, but WCW was more polished at that point. And it was just it just brought you in. And the DDP Diamond Dallas Page was at that point one of my favorite wrestlers. I loved everything he in there. Obviously, he should have been given. He started late in his life, which these days wouldn't happen.
No.
But he started late in his life, and he was given the opportunities, and he took what he could and did what he could with them. And to this day, anytime I listen to, I hear the Nirvana song, I always do the self high five. You can't not without it. But yeah, so for me, my number 6 pick is Diamond Dallas Page.
Brilliant one. And by the way, you can check our interview with DDP in the playlists. One of Dave's favorites. One that was really for Dave, that one. But yeah, not that I didn't want to talk to him, but Dave was a big Diamond Dallas Page fan as well. My number 6, I don't think needs an introduction in terms of. I'm just going to say, I think the only way to describe the guy is simply phenomenal. I think that gives it away. Who my number 6 is, a 3-time United States champion. Fun enough, beat Kevin Owens at a house show for his first one in 2017 at MSG, of course. If you're going to have a title change, you're going to put it at MSG all day. He beat Kevin Owens twice, actually, for his first and second reign of the championship. And the third reign, he defeated Ricochet at Extreme Rules, and that was his longest reign. After that one, it sort of went into 2020 from 2019 when he beat him. And I think what I liked about the third reign, there was wrestlers like Humberto Carrillo, who he was going against at the time, and it kind of showed those talents. So again, we talk about elevating talent as well as elevating titles. AJ could do both because he's also been at that other end of the scale where when he was maybe not being looked at right in WWE, and he was at WCW for a period of time, found his feet perfectly in TNA, rejected the first opportunity to come to WWE because of his wife, and his wife wanted to go through college and all that stuff. So then coming to WWE rather late, or last decade or so of his career was in there, and he can not only is a star, he can make stars, and his US title reign, I think, made a lot of undercard talent into well, not necessarily stars, but maybe opened them up to WWE realizing how good the other talents actually are. Humberto Carrillo being one of them.
Absolutely. I mean, what can you say about AJ Styles? His career is just incredible. I fell in love with him when we were able to watch TNA in the UK on the Wrestling Channel, and also Bravo
Challenge.
That was it. Yes, and obviously, you can't say anything other than his triple threat match with Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I've been lucky enough to see him wrestle live in the UK quite a number of years ago. He wrestled during that period of time when he was between TNA and he'd gone to New Japan. He came over to the UK. I saw him wrestle at Preston City Wrestling, and it was fantastic. Seeing him live was incredible. I know a lot of people will have seen him when he was younger, right around about 2009, 2010 in Doncaster, but I was quite late to it. But yeah, you absolutely spot on with that. I mean, look at what he's done with putting his imprint on Leon Slater, giving the nod to certain people. He can still go.
Yeah.
The fact that he's wrestling better when he wrestles like at Clash in Paris, and stuff like that. It just shows you that it's just a shame that potentially he's done.
Yeah.
Hopefully he isn't, and he does come back. Maybe not for a title run, but just for a proper match.
Yeah.
But we shall see. But yeah, that's a good shout. Is that? I like that one.
Yeah. Halfway point now, Michael. Come on, five.
Right, I'm going to go with the first ever champion, Harley Race.
Wow, yes, indeed.
So he only ever won it once.
Mhm.
He was the inaugural US champion, 183 days. He held it for over 6 months. With at that point, we were going through a period of time where people would hold belts for 2, 3, 4 years, especially
Yeah.
for the heavyweight championships.
Yeah.
He was over as Rover. Everyone loved him. You couldn't. He's the equivalent of saying, "Do you know who Hulk Hogan is? Do you know who Ric Flair is? The Rock."
Yeah.
Everyone knew who he was, and obviously at that time, the bubble of wrestling was a lot smaller, not as global as it is now, or it started coming in the late 90s,
Yeah.
especially with cable TV and the internet and everything like that. But yeah, I've gone back over some of his matches, even if he's not as a US champion, and just the presence he's got. I mean, he's just absolutely an incredible wrestler to watch. Um, he, yeah, just as I said, just the fact that they were they picked him to
Yeah.
be the first person to win the title and to hold it and to elevate it is the reason why he's on my list. Yes, as I said, he only won it once, but I think, like you said with Bret Hart and AJ Styles, because he was the first ever US champion, he needs to be. If he's not in your top 10, he needs to be up there very high because of the prestige that he had to then elevate the title to be what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good one. And amazingly enough, he doesn't make mine, which is now really bad that I didn't think about having Harley Race on my list, but I should have done because I was looking through the list of United States champions at the time. Halfway point for me. Look, you just spoke about reigns, as in how long a title reign is, and he has got the longest title reign post WCW, so WWE only. He's now known as John Moxley. In the WWE, he was Dean Ambrose. Beat Kofi Kingston at Extreme Rules in 2013 and held it for 5 days short of 4 days short of a year.
Yeah.
So a long title reign for him. And I think that started cementing where his sort of climb or ascension up the ranks in WWE. Also, we all know that he won the World Championship and everything else. He was a part of the Shield. Um, but this was the beginning for him as a single because a lot of times he was teaming with Seth and then kind of Seth went his way. Then they done the big turn on the Shield as well at the same, at that point. But Dean Ambrose winning the United States Championship, holding it for that long. Because again, you mentioned it there. This was when totally the reverse of what you just said. Title reigns were short at this point. We weren't going into year. If you were lucky, if you were holding a title from one pay-per-view to the next
Yeah.
in this period of time in WWE. Luckily enough with Dean, he held it for over a year. He beat some guy, Kane, Rob Van Dam. He had a match with for the championship. Kane, Dolph Ziggler, and then he actually lost it in a battle royal.
Yeah.
It was when he was eliminated by Sheamus, of all people, on there. But yeah, for me, Ambrose, you got to have him. Well, for me, I had to put him on there because he's the longest reigning US champion of the modern era, and
Yeah.
actually for what he'd done for his career after he won the championship.
Yeah. I like that. Unfortunately, he's not on mine. But as you were saying when I was looking at putting my top 10 together, again, honourable mention. Reason being, like you've just exactly said, that in the modern day, he's the longest reigning. So for them to, and at that point, it wasn't like they weren't using him. It wasn't as if we'll give you the belt, but we won't see you. We'll see you once every blue moon. He
Yeah,
was prominent. He was holding that belt so people could see it. People could buy the belt.
yeah,
He was having it. They were having him prominent, and Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, however you want to call him. Obviously, he's Moxley now, but giving him the belt while at that time his two partners had the tag belts
Yeah,
was good to then build them up. Obviously, it would have been nice for him to hit the year mark, but I think he did a good job of with the matches that he put on there, as you said, with Ziggler and stuff like that. Yeah.
definitely so. So just to let everyone know, this league, I asked Michael to do this yesterday. So he hasn't had long, and nor have I had long to compile this list. But however, I am going to give him a task for our next top 10, which he will have a bit more time to go through. Because usually a lot of these, we always do a week, 2 weeks. But I literally messaged Michael yesterday and said, how quickly can you get a top 10 list together of US champions? So to be fair, he's done this in very quick time. So we have to, I'll give him a brownie point for that
Oh,
one.
thank you.
But anyway, we're into the top four now, the heavy heights. Who is your four?
Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero.
Oh, I love him. Love him.
Two-time champion,
Yeah,
161 days.
yeah.
So he won the US title back in WCW
Mhm.
by defeating Diamond Dallas Page.
Mhm.
He then lost the belt to Dean Malenko after just 77 days. I mean, at that point, you had what would be the Radicals come
Yeah,
over, but Dean Malenko, Eddie
yeah,
Guerrero, your Chris Benoit's were all your workhorses.
yeah.
What all your cruiserweights, which WCW were building on.
Mhm.
That was the meat of the sandwich.
Mhm.
If you want to, if you understand what I'm getting at,
Yeah.
they were what people would sit down and gladly watch half an hour matches with.
Mhm.
Um, and as I said, regardless of whether he won the belt or not, he was one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, and I got invested in him, especially during his Rey Mysterio matches at Halloween Havoc, which
Yeah.
is one of my top matches ever. So, but yeah, I he won the belt again 7 years later, but with this time with WWE. He defeated Chris Benoit.
Mhm.
Um, then Guerrero defended his title successfully several times against names such as Benoit again, John
Yeah.
Cena, Rhino, and then we also had the hilarious, depending on how you want to class it as, feud with the Big Show, where he, in uh, according to WWE, sprayed human sewage onto him. So you take that how you want it, but yeah, everything about him, whatever title he held, he just I'm sorry, but I'm going to use the Razor Ramon. He oozed machismo. He was just incredible to watch. Just didn't matter whether he was playing a heel or a face. But for me, Eddie Guerrero, as a US champion, is one of my. Obviously, he's not, but he's one of my favorite US champions of all time.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I remember a house show we was at when I watched in Manchester, and Eddie would come out and I think he used the phrase "shits on Big Show." That was what he said as an end. So it was going into what you were talking about there. My one is a man that won the champ. He won the championship. It was actually vacated. It was weird because he's one of these ones that he won it when he was vacated, and he had to vacate it because he was leaving to join the WWF at the time. And this was Barry Windham back in the day. Now he defeated Nikita Koloff in a
Yes,
tournament final to win that. Significance about when he won it, that time he was part of the Four Horsemen, and every member of the Four Horsemen at that point had gold. You had Tully Nana's tag, Ric Flair as well, and Barry Windham become United States Championship. Held it for roughly 283 days against the
yeah,
likes of Lex Luger as well at the Chi-Town Rumble, which may be something we need to look at in the future if we get a chance. I'll go into that in a minute.
yeah.
But he was also known for using the claw hold as
Yes,
people.
because it wasn't that his was it his dad's or his granddad's move?
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was. I think it was his dad's move. And even when he was working through a hand injury, that he would use the claw. So there was a lot of significance about his reign. Like I said, for the Four Horsemen, it was kind of like that moment when Evolution won all the gold, and they were holding it up at the end of the pay-per-view. Well, the Four Horsemen had already done that, so they were recreating that moment for them. But Wyndham, I always thought like He was underutilized a little bit. His WWE runs or WWF runs never really caught on when he went to WWF. He was always better in WCW, being a part of that faction. When you're a part of like that, I mean, it's just like when Randy Orton and Batista got into Evolution. Like you knew that these two were going to be big, and you kind of thought the same for Wyndham, but it just never really happened, and he never really caught on in the WWF. But his reign, as I said, he had to vacate in early 1989 because he went to join the WWF. So he's never really lost the United States
No.
Championship. So technically he's the longest reigning United States champion ever.
I must admit, that's yeah, that's a good name. He he's one of these, like a lot of wrestlers, certain wrestlers, like we talked about with WWE and AEW, certain wrestlers will only work good in
Yeah,
WCW and WWE, or at
yeah,
that time WWF. The Four Horsemen was what Evolution became,
yeah.
but couldn't really put the Four Horsemen on a WWE program
Mm,
because for me it wouldn't work. It's it's that the aesthetic, the way that they talked, the way that they
yeah,
looked. Same way we were on about Dusty Rhodes earlier. It was just something about him that would work more,
yeah.
would work better for WCW than WWF at the time, and it's a shame because he's a very good wrestler, and obviously he comes from a lineage of very good wrestling family. But it's just a shame that nothing happened to him, as in elevating him
Mm.
to a place where he should have been or deserved for WWF at the time. So yeah,
There we go. Top three now. The big time. Welcome to the big time. Michael's big time top three list begins at number three with
Magnum TA.
wow, what a name. What a name.
So I struggled because Magnum TA won the belt twice and held it for 302 days.
Yeah.
He won the belt from the legendary Wahoo McDaniel,
Hmm.
who had all held it for an impressive 120 days at the time.
Yeah.
He then lost it to Tully Blanchard. Now,
Yeah.
I was in two minds of putting Magnum and Blanchard together
Yeah.
as a joint duo. Reason being is their infamous steel cage match.
Yeah.
It's which so basically he beat Blanchard 5 months later in a steel cage I quit
Yeah.
match.
Hmm.
He wasn't. He was one of these people that would be a bigger name if it wasn't for the car crash.
Yeah.
I think. I
Yeah.
think if it wasn't for the accident that he had, he would still have elevated himself to a bigger level and a higher status than he is. He's on this list because of what he did with the belt, the
Yeah.
way that he defended it, the way that his character was. Again, I'm looking at the full picture, not just a reign. And I just thought at that time I had to go back because when I was younger, I heard the name Magnum T, and I was like, "Who's this?" And I was researching it and watching him, and he's one of my favorite all-time wrestlers. Just for that small period of time, but I think for what he did in that short space of time, having the belt, it elevated him, it elevated the companies, and it elevated the Tully Blanchard with a feud that he had. It obviously, unfortunately, he lost the belt,
Yeah.
but he had a feud which came out of this with Nikita Volkov, which ended in a best of seven series. Now, I absolutely love best of 5 sevens and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And yeah, I just thought what that period of time for that 302 days that he had it, he made the most of what he had again, as I was saying before about other wrestlers on this list. And I just think he, if you've never watched a Magnum TA match, even if it's not the Tully Blanchard I Quit match, go seek one out because he just emits an aura that you just are taking in. He's a very 70s, 80s style wrestler. He looks the part and everything like that. And obviously, he was from the 70s and 80s, but there's just something about him that just makes him stand out more than others that should be higher than
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, definitely. So it's weird. My top three have all had 5 reigns as United States champions, which is rather weird, I think. But my third one is the WWE. My top two are both WCW. My third one, and again, someone who when he won the United States Championship when he was on the up, when he before he won the World Heavyweight Championship. But then he had other reigns as United States Championship what it's sort of in the mid part of it when he was already a massively established name. He was great at
I
putting over talents. You think you know where I'm going with
Okay.
this, right? And
I
he's
think I know where you're
also
going.
he's also the owner of the John Cena US Open Challenge, which gives it away, right?
Right, so I'm going to jump in. That's
No,
my number two.
there's your two. So it
So
goes.
go on then. You go. You start.
I'll go. I'll just finish with Cena, and I'm sure. Look, I don't really think we need to add. Really, I mean, the guy's had a legendary career. This was also. I remember the one where you done it when Sami Zayn come out. It was in Canada. Brett come out. Sami Zayn come out. The massive pop. Sami Zayn actually injured his shoulder during his entrance because he was so pumped up. I remember when Kevin Owens come out and challenged him. And it was crazy. So he had a great. Cena was. There is times where you think he should have put people up. You mentioned Rusev earlier. I go back to the SummerSlam against the Nexus and say I don't know why Cena won that match. That may not have been him. It may have been Vince. I don't know. So he's had that habit of doing that. But on the other side of that, he has a habit of doing exactly what we've just done here. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, those matches that made them stars coming up from NXT into the WWE. So Cena is my three, and he's your two. So I need to do my two. Um, Again, 5 reigns as champion, but he will always be known as like Cena. This man will always be known for how many times he was world heavyweight champion rather than United States champion. It's the one, the only Nature Boy, Ric Flair. He was my number two. I'm not going to woo because I don't have that to do it anymore. It will not work as much as it would have done about 10 years ago. But Rick, look, what can you say about Ric Flair? He was the right. He said to be the man, you got to beat the man. And if he thought you were the man, he would let you beat the man because that's what he did. I listened to some stuff with Jim Cornette when Rick was world champion. He promised the title to Sting at a show. And then on the go home show before they were due to wrestle, Sting tore his ACL, getting pulled off the cage by a security guy, not but a plant security guard. So he couldn't have it, and they switched Luger back face, and Rick was never going to give Luger the championship, and he didn't because he promised it to Sting. He thought Sting was the man. So Rick for me is number two, just because of how great that he was, and look, wherever he was at WCW, he was a booker in the late 80s as well as an active competitor. He had head of creative at a time when WCW was sinking under Jim Herd. He brought the ratings up. Jim Herd never liked him, and I think he never liked him because he was bringing the ratings up when it was meant to be his job to do. They always clashed, but Nature Boy Ric Flair is my number two, just for those reasons, but also because he was damn good at what he done.
Well, it's like you were saying with Ric Flair. He was somebody that again was able to captivate the audience. He could make the audience boo,
Mhm.
cheer,
Yeah,
as you were talking about with the Four Horsemen. Just everything about him just was so captivating that you were just drawn into it. That's Obviously he then would push to go for
yep,
the heavyweight championship afterwards, but he did put eyes on the prize at the time, which was the US title. And I like that one. I like that one.
where's it?
Going back to
Go on.
your number two, my number two, your number three, John Cena. I
Mm.
just wanted to add.
Yes,
So obviously, his first reign was beating Big Show at
Big Show.
WrestleMania
Yep.
20.
Yes.
He had a really good. You were saying about not putting people over, or whether that was him or whether that was behind the scenes. One that I really got captivated by was his best of five series with Booker T back in the early
Yeah, I
2000s.
remember that.
Obviously, as we talk, the main reason why he's on this list is 2015 Open Challenge,
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter if he beat you. It was just that everyone's eyes were on who's this Sami Zayn? Who's
yeah,
Kevin Owens?
yeah,
Who are these people? Cesaro.
yeah,
When it was just like, I need to watch that. And because at that time they were in NXT, I think it was a good way of saying, right, well, if you want to watch these people, you got to tune into NXT.
yeah.
So from a viewer's point of view and from a ratings point of view, that for me would be a good person to have the belt because you would elevate everyone. As I said, it doesn't matter whether he wins or not. You are getting these new people coming out. I think it's a bit different now
Mhm.
because people are already established on the main roster that are
Yeah,
coming out for the open challenge, with the exception of like when um, Zack Ryder came back.
yeah, yeah,
That's different. But the fact that these people that have been watching are watching it on at the time it would have been USA Network.
yeah,
So they wouldn't be watching NXT because obviously in the UK we can watch everything all on one system.
yeah,
In America, I feel bad for you guys, but you guys have got to watch it on so many different cable operators and
yeah.
providers and that, and it's not everyone can do that. So I think that way was very very good for
It
for
was.
John Cena to elevate it. So yeah, I liked that. But going back to your Ric Flair, I liked that one. Unfortunately, he's not my number one.
Okay, and who is number one?
Lex Luger.
He's my number one. We got it. Yes.
So for me, WCW. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, but no matter what you think of him, um, you can't knock him in WCW. Yes, his later run in WCW was a bit rubbish, but that was down to booking.
Mhm.
We won't go into that because that's a completely different video.
Yeah,
But I do feel that, yeah, I mean, 950 days totaling for
yeah.
five times. Um, he's I mean, what can you say about him? I mean, unfortunately, people who only know him from WWE will
Yeah.
not know what he was like beforehand.
Mm.
Um, he was just an incredible wrestler, teaming with like Sting
Yeah.
uh, against Flair, just everything. I mean, his first stint was 138 days.
Yeah.
His third was the longest at 523.
Yeah.
Um, he helped WCW again, like Bill Goldberg, dominate the ratings in the 90s. And then obviously he feuded with, as I said, Ric Flair, Bret Hart, uh, the Giant,
Yeah.
to Hollywood Hulk Hogan. So if you take away his WWE run, Lex Luger is the total package.
He certainly is. Obviously, his first win against Nikita Koloff at the '87 Bash. That's another one that we're going to be looking at very, very soon. I'll go. I keep dropping little hints here. I'll go into what we're doing in a minute. It's very exciting what we're going to be doing over the course of the year, really. But we're going to be
Yeah.
starting it very, very soon. I think he also solidified him as a top talent in the '80s. Because late '80s, because he was those runs that he had as US title. I mean, it put him on the map. And obviously, as you said, it helped carry WCW. And you're right, it didn't work out in the WWE. I thought the narcissist gimmick was going to be perfect for him. For whatever reason, it didn't transpire. Then he obviously went to the American. They tried to do the whole American thing without him having body slam Yokozuna. Um, And I think he even had the championship for one night, and we never actually saw it, if I'm right. I think he come out at Superstars or something with the world champion. And I think it was to gauge the reaction. I think if I remember reading right, I'll have to go back through. But anyway, regardless of all that, he was an incredible US champion and he made our list. I'm going to give you a name that I've got on my honorable mentions, and I was so close to putting him on there because I thought he had a tremendous run in the WWE as United States champion, and that was MVP.
Yes,
I
very.
thought he was it was a great one, and I thought I was close. I just couldn't put him in. I don't know why.
Well, you were saying honourable mentions. Obviously, we've been dropping honourable mentions
Yeah.
throughout the show. Stunning Steve Austin is another
Yes.
one.
Of
His
course.
WCW, obviously Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
His WCW run was again, it was something that elevated him,
Yeah.
put people's eyes on him. Another one, Rick Rude.
Yeah.
Um, he lost it to Indra.
Mhm.
And then we've also got the likes of Rowdy Roddy Piper,
Yeah.
Dragon Steamboat.
Hmm.
I even was going to drop in Sting,
Yeah. I was thinking
but
about it.
but again, I was looking at the full thing, what he
Yeah.
brought to it, what he did, not just for
Mm.
title reigns, because if but yeah, it was just there's a very, as of right now, as I said, 108 people have won the belt,
Mm.
and if if I look if we look at everything, I don't think me and you have not put anybody from the last 15 years,
No.
10 years on that list.
Hmm.
Just and it's I don't know. For me, does that show how they don't use the US title as well as they should
Maybe.
be?
Hmm.
I
Possibly.
just think I just think like the Intercontinental Championship, a lot of people liked this belt and liked the people in it because you could have your mixtures of heavyweights,
Yeah.
cruiserweights. It wasn't based on size, which I loved. But yeah, it was a really good list to do. Really good thing to go back through and reconnect with some bits and even blow some cobwebs off and go, oh God, I completely forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
complete as you said, Bret Hart,
Yeah.
absolutely love him, one of the best in the world, but not for me. And as we'll do this all the time, there'll be
Yeah.
stuff that you go, why didn't you pick him? And I'll be like, why did you pick him? I
Yeah.
mean, obviously the main one we've dropped his name in a few times, but I don't think a lot of people still like talk about him. Is obviously the Canadian Crippler.
Yeah.
He had a fantastic reign, but even to this day, it's a sour note to talk about. So,
Yes.
but yeah, fantastic. It's a great top 10. That.
That was a good top 10. And so I said to you before, when I said earlier on that Michael only had 24 hours to do this list. So it was a very quick one. He's going to get a bit more time before he does. So I am bringing him back for another top 10, which is a good thing. The next top 10 we're going to be doing is going to be another one that was held between uh, held between two companies. It's no longer around anymore, but we're going to be doing the top 10 cruiserweights
Oh,
champions. So there's
I
one.
did. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah,
So you can go back to WCW to watch some of those cruiserweights. That's where it really kicked off the cruiserweight division. I know WWE brought it back, but it was much better in WCW. I used to love the cruiser. I used to make sure used to be on always used to be on like top of the hour on Nitro. Normally as Raw was starting on Sky, it would have the cruiserweight. They were either first after the first promo, or they were on top of the hour on WCW. And I had to make sure I was watching Psychosis and Rey Mysterio. I can't go into it because I'm probably going to get the list done. But so many great cruiserweights there that we're going to have to look through in our
yeah,
time.
I like that. Okay, that's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and you have a bit more time this time to go through it. Now, I've mentioned all through the show about something else that me and Michael are going to be doing, and we're really actually looking forward to this. And I've been wanting to do it. Oh, it's not been wanting to do it. Is I've been watching a lot of the old, not old shooting, only about shoot interviews from like a decade or so ago, and I was thinking, man, I'd love to have been able to see some of this old old wrestling, really, when we were very young, maybe even before we've got cable or Sky in a lot of ways. And there's a channel on YouTube called WCW, and they have put on so many events from over their time. And I'm hoping that there's going to be others. I'm going to have a look on YouTube, see if there's others. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be picking some from the vault, where we're going to be watching and reviewing some of the old action. And we begin with the very first Clash of the Champions from WCW. What we'll do is when we review it, I will put the link out to the video that you can watch it yourselves out there. But Michael, it's going to be great to go back to go and take a trip in a time machine back to the late 80s to watch some of this action.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though I grew up in the 80s, we didn't get American wrestling over here in the UK until very early 90s, and that's if you were lucky enough to get Sky. And yeah, I'm absolutely loving that. I can't wait to deep dive into some old classic wrestling, whether it be one of the best wrestling shows of that time or whether it be one of the worst shows out there. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an enjoyable trip down the yesteryears of wrestling. Can't wait.
And we're going to be introducing the HTTP star factor to these matches. So a bit like you see in some other biased people will give you their star ratings. We're going to be unbiased and give you ours, and they may or may not match with what each other was thinking, because we don't even know if we like the same type of wrestling, which will be interesting to see. So keep an eye out on that one. Big thanks obviously to Eddie Edwards that come on last week. You'll be able to, by the time this goes out, his video will be in the TNA exclusive playlists below. You can check out that and AJ Francis, as well as the continuation of Independent Showcase Down Under. Chris Gale's come out today at the time of recording. And Robbie Thorpe will be out this week at time of recording as well. That'll all be under the Independent Showcase banner. There's lots of other stuff, but you can just catch us everywhere at HTT Buckle. And Michael, where can they catch your stuff as well? Because you've got some bits and pieces that you like to put out.
So you can find me on X Twitter at Jolly the Bear or Wrestling with the Bear. On Instagram, it is Wrestling with the Bear. I also do socials for a different company called Jonas Podcasting Network. You can find that on Twitter X at Jonas P Network and on Instagram at Jonas P Network as well. But you can always go into if you go onto my socials, you can always go into my bio and there's always the links for everything there. And then obviously, as you already have said this at beginning of this list, you can find my stuff as well as your stuff as part of the Hit the Turnbuckle podcast.
Yep, HTT Buckle everywhere for that, everybody. But from Michael Jolly, I've been your host, Adam Cousins. You've been watching the Top 10 on Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.